friends. Welcome back to Crime Adjacent, the #1 true crime podcast in the world, thanks to you. Here's where things stand. We caught Jimmy Ball red-handed. He was leaving the cabin of Claire Gasly, cameras in hand. But Jimmy had an interesting story. It wasn't him. Well, yes, obviously, it was him. We caught him. He was there at the cabin. But he said he couldn't help it, or I guess couldn't refuse it. Someone made him do it. Someone was blackmailing him, and he had no choice. Believable? There are actually laws that attend to this problem, whether people are innocent of crimes if they are forced to do so under duress or threat. But totally innocent? Like you can get away with murder so long as someone else is forcing you to? Let's get into it. Because this case is only getting deeper. There's not just a man out there in a clown mask breaking into cabins. There are now everyday citizens of Petoskey and Walloon, just ordinary, everyday people like Jimmy or Eddie Devereaux, or perhaps even like Mr. Rodman and the high school principal, Mrs. Harris, with a similar story. They were either being set up or someone was forcing them into crime. In this episode, I'm talking about duress laws, sextortion, getting away with murder, and who, ultimately, takes the blame for crimes. Here's the story. But first, thanks for joining our True Crime College meetup last week on Patreon, patreon.com/crimeadjacent. I thought it was a fascinating discussion about the early days of FBI profiling. Well, in this next reading, we are taking an opposing view to this theory. An opposing view that says profiling is nothing more than smoke and mirrors and makes light of the whole Mindhunter business. You don't want to miss it. You can check out patreon.com/crimeadjacent for the next reading. From San Francisco, this is Crime Adjacent, the never-ending true crime thriller told weekly. I'm Chase Patrick. Longtime listeners might remember the episode we did on cyber hacking and sextortion back in the early days of this podcast, back in season 2, when we recorded in Nikki's studio apartment in the marina. It's been a while, my friends. Things have changed. I'm glad you've stuck around with us. Thanks for being here. Anyway, as a brief refresher, because it relates to this case, I promise, the story went like this. In 2015, more than 1,000 people gathered for a community forum in Plainfield, Indiana, because somebody by the name of Brian Kill, K-I-L, 1L, was threatening online to shoot students at the local high school. The town was panicking, and they wanted answers. As police told the community about these threats and their plans to do something about it, the suspect, this Brian Kill guy, infiltrated the meeting. Not personally, he wasn't there himself, but it turns out he blackmailed a victim online into attending the meeting on his behalf and to take copious notes for him. At first, because all the threats happened online, police knew Brian Kill could quite literally be anyone or anywhere. Police took the threat seriously, but also many people thought it was just a dumb internet nonsense thing, a made-up name, an anonymous guy, threats that didn't really go anywhere. But when he started posting information from this town forum, thanks to his blackmailed victim sending him detailed notes, police thought he was one of their own, that he lived in town, and that because of this, there was a real possibility he could turn his online threats into real physical violence. Indeed, for the past year, Brian Kill had been making increasingly violent threats against everyone. The town closed 2 high schools. They closed the local mall. There was a guy out there threatening to murder locals and also all the police who came to provide aid. They had to catch this guy fast. I can't tell whether this all started in 2014 or 2015. The accounts vary. But the Department of Justice put out a long press release about how they finally nailed this guy. It's online. You can read it yourself. It's both fascinating and absolutely horrifying at the same time. Here's what happened. The department said in late 2015, the police in Brownsburg, Indiana approached the FBI. For the previous year and a half, This Brian Kill guy was extorting a minor girl in town, demanding she send him nude photos and more, or else he would kill her mother, her sister, her entire family. The messages are graphic and terrifying. I can't even imagine. This is called sextortion, and I've been at the center of one of these scams myself, like send me Bitcoin or I will release all the photos in your phone. Like, sure, go for it. Here's the keys to the kingdom of all the food and dog photos I've taken. Dorothy, our crime-adjacent tech wizard, tracked this guy down in under 5 minutes. It was glorious. He's still doing time. Anyway, sorry. The mom of this minor girl finds out about all this and immediately goes to police, who then go to the FBI. And they find this Brian Kill guy has been doing the same thing to people all over town. But it gets worse. So much worse. Because as the FBI investigates, they find he's been doing this to people all over the country. All told, Brian Kill sextorted 375 minors. Let me repeat that in case you thought it was an error. 375. But at this point, they still couldn't catch him. He used anonymous software to hide his identity, and he was pretty good at it. He covered his tracks really well. Police and the FBI were at a loss, and the extortion just kept on happening. He was unstoppable. Without fully nerding out in an area I don't really understand, Vice magazine says the FBI reached out to Facebook, one of the sites he used to find victims, and together they set up a mini sting operation. The plan was this. They would send Brian Kill what looked like a victim's video, but really it had a Trojan horse deep in the code that allowed them to filter through his long list of anonymity software. See, I don't really fully understand it, and ultimately find his IP address. That's the point. You can read the Vice magazine story for all the details and the ethical implications of big business teaming up with the cops. It's fascinating. The point in this story is that this mini sting operation worked. Brian Kill opened the video. The cyber sleuths found his actual IP address, and they forwarded it to the FBI, who were soon knocking on the door of a 26-year-old guy in Bakersfield, California, named Buster Hernandez. They got him. Everything. All his computers and texts and software. This loser told his victims that he wanted to be the, quote, greatest cyber terrorist in the world. Instead, he pleaded guilty to a whole litany of sextortion charges and child porn charges and was eventually sentenced to 75 years in prison. I'm always reticent to use prison as an end-all, be-all site of justice because I realize far too many innocent people are there simply because they pleaded out to lesser charges to avoid even harsher charges they're actually innocent of, sort of railroaded, because they couldn't afford good lawyers and just thought it was better to serve a few years rather than life. Happens all the time. And then there's the idea about whether it's redemptive in any way or just a warehouse of bodies, and often a very racialized and class-based warehouse about who gets imprisoned and who does not. And yet, honestly, I hear stories like that of Buster Hernandez, and part of me wants to put him under the prison. So I'm not sure how to square those impulses. The damage he inflicted is just terrorizing and horrifying and will stay with his victims forever. I tell you all this because this is exactly what Jimmy Ball said happened to him in 2024, the moment he moved to Petoskey. In the Hernandez case, according to Vice magazine, victims said they received messages on Facebook that said the messenger had found private nude photos of the victims. If they didn't send more to him, he'd expose them publicly or kill them and their families. It was bad, like under the prison bad. In Jimmy's case, there was a knock on the door. Like I said in the previous episode, the Ball family moved to Petoskey in January 2024, looking for a new place to call home. They thought they had found it. Jimmy told Sheriff Press he was nervous. He was a junior in high school at the time and was sad to leave behind his friends in Chicago, but was hoping to make new ones. And lo and behold, just a few days after moving in, Bill LaBoa knocks on his door. He was also a junior at the time and said, "Hey, welcome, I'm your neighbor. Let's hang out." Later that night, Jimmy got his first message. It was from a strange number he didn't recognize, and it started with a line that totally creeped him out. "Hi, pumpkin." Jimmy would have simply ignored it, but there was also a picture of him. Just a dumb, naked selfie he had taken in the bathroom, private. He never sent it to anyone. It was just on his phone. Nothing sexual, just nude and flexing, dumb teen stuff, sort of embarrassing if anyone else saw it, and there it was, staring back at him. "I was stunned," he told press in our interview. His parents, Ted and Tim, sat with him on the couch, looking like they wanted to cry and punch a wall at the same time. Jimmy told Sheriff Press that the messages kept coming. "Hi, pumpkin. I have all your photos. Do what I say, when I say it, or I will release them to all the high school." Jimmy was creeped out. The "hi, pumpkin" thing just struck him as immediately weird and familiar and creepy. But mainly, Jimmy was scared. He didn't know what to do. His mind rattled through all the photos on his phone, and he admitted he couldn't really think of anything super bad, just embarrassing. But again, he was new to town. He wanted friends, a girlfriend. He was annoyed and angry about leaving Chicago in the middle of high school, and now this. On the couch, Jimmy cried. "I was just so scared and lonely." I think he knew that, preyed on that.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
Over the next few days, Jimmy did exactly what the messenger said to do. Jimmy took more photos of himself, and this time they were very explicit. He felt trapped now. With no one to talk to, he turned to the only person he knew in town at this point, his neighbor, his new friend, Bill LaBoa, who had seemed nice enough. Here's what Jimmy said. "I told Bill everything. I didn't have anyone else. I told him about the messages, about the nudes, everything, and Bill, he just smiled. I'll never forget it. Bill just stood there, smiling, and then he said, 'Hi, pumpkin. You're mine now. And if you don't do exactly what I want, I'm going to send these photos to every single girl in school.'" This is Jimmy's account. I need to be clear on that. This is what he told Sheriff Press and Deputy Swanson that Friday evening in his house. I was there. Later, I knocked on Bill's door to speak with him and his parents, Marjorie and Bill Sr. But at the time, they refused to talk. In fact, they have steadfastly declined to speak at all. There's no actual legal record for any of this. Bill was never charged with anything or even under arrest for anything. Sheriff Press said, as of this recording, she is still investigating what, if anything, she can charge him with. But as of now, 2026, all the sextortion has stopped. You'll find out why soon enough. It relates to the very end of this case and involves my own experience on the ground in Petoskey and my own run-ins with Bill that week. But I feel like I needed to explain here, legally, why Bill is mentioned in this case the way he is mentioned. So according to Jimmy's account, the sextortion photos and requests for more stopped. Bill told him he had, quote, enough, and he wasn't really interested in boys. He just needed to, well, get enough to blackmail Jimmy into doing his bidding. And that's exactly what he did. Bill started giving Jimmy tasks that January and was told that he'd be watching, and that if he didn't do exactly what he wanted, the photos would be released to everybody in town. One of those tasks involved following Mr. Rodman around. Jimmy didn't know why. He was just told, make sure you keep your phone on. Follow Mrs. Harris, the principal. Again, he didn't know why. He was just told, keep your phone on. Follow this resident. Follow that one. Go put these nanny cams in the cabin or that cabin. Bring me back the memory drives. One time, Jimmy said, I went to go pick up a bag of cash, an actual bag of cash, near the Cannon downtown. Jimmy didn't look inside, but the bag was heavy. He wondered how much cash was in there, but was afraid to actually look. Bill might know. For months, right until September 2024, Jimmy acted as the real-life henchman for Bill Laboa's crimes in much the same way Buster Hernandez made a real-life victim attend that town forum and relay any information to him. In Jimmy's case, the stakes were much, much higher. Ted, one of Jimmy's dads, pleaded with Sheriff Press in that meeting Friday night. He said, please, he's told you everything. He didn't have a choice. You have to help him. The idea of duress or being forced into committed crimes is an interesting part of law. In some cases, yes, you can say you are forced by threat of immediate physical harm to commit a crime for somebody else. Like, here's a gun. If you don't shoot this person, I'm going to shoot you. Maybe, possibly, that might get you off. But if, say, you willingly join a street gang and do crimes, you might say the gang forced you to do things, but you also willingly put yourself in that situation in the first place. The circumstances are totally different. In Jimmy's case, Sheriff Press wasn't buying it. Not at all. Your name is on the cameras, she asked and sort of stated at the same time. Jimmy nodded. You broke into the cabins to retrieve them. Jimmy nodded. You followed Mr. Rodman, set him up. Jimmy nodded. Ted and Tim rose from the couch to interrupt. Press didn't relent, not for a second. Mrs. Harris, the caseworker, the bank teller. Jimmy nodded. Dorian Block. Jimmy shook his head. I didn't do anything to her, I promise. That was Bill, all Bill. He communicated with her, not me. Press lifted his phone, which was in a clear evidence bag. We saw the messages you sent on this phone. We have them all. Jimmy protested. That wasn't me. Press said, your name is all over this phone. You're listed as the owner of the cameras of this phone. You blackmailed Dorian to send you nudes and she committed suicide. Ted and Tim were horrified. We need to end this now, Ted stammered. Press and Swanson exchanged a look. So do we, Press said. Jimmy Ball, you're under arrest for the murder of Dorian Block, the sextortion of Mr. Rodman, and who knows how many others. The cameras, everything. We got you. Swanson was swift. She moved across the room and cuffed Jimmy Ball before anyone had a chance to react. She and Press moved him to the door. It took seconds. Honestly, I was as surprised as Jimmy's parents. This was supposed to be a different meeting, they thought. I did too. Honestly, I thought the kid's story checked out. He had absolutely zero computer skills, and sorry to admit this publicly, but Jimmy Ball didn't strike me as particularly savvy. One time, at brunch, a friend of mine looked at a dog sitting at a table nearby and asked the owner, "Does your dog have common sense?" The owner laughed and said no, but that's the politest way of saying your dog looks like the world's biggest idiot. That was Jimmy Ball. He lacked common sense, and he was clearly forced to do crimes for someone else who did not lack common sense, who was very much a cyber criminal, who was clearly controlling townsfolk, like the wrestling coach I had a run-in just hours before this meeting. Sheriff Press cut off any more discussion. We're done here. We have our guy. Ted, Tim, I'd recommend calling the best lawyer you can find. He's going to need one. Sheriff Press clapped her hands together and rubbed them vigorously. She was done. Without another word, Press and Swanson led Jimmy to the car and stuffed him into the back seat, where they also stuffed me. What? Swanson smirked. You thought you were going to sit on my lap? You belong with him back there anyway. Press drove away, and I saw Jimmy crane his neck around to the rear window, watching his horrified dad slip away from view. I didn't do anything, he mumbled. Please, you have the wrong guy, I promise. Press barked, Zip it, asshole. You're going down for this. I'm going to put you under the jail when I'm done with you. I was as stunned as Jimmy. I wanted to say something. I don't know why. Jimmy did do some weird things and maybe some crime things, duress or not, but this seemed harsh. I was about to speak, but then I noticed something odd. Jimmy's house is downtown, maybe just a few blocks from the police station, but we were headed in the opposite direction. The trip to the station should have taken seconds, but soon, we were outside of town. Press caught my look in the rearview mirror. She nodded to Swanson, who swiveled around in the seat. She put a finger to her lips like, shh, don't say anything. Then she pulled out a Mylar bag from the glove compartment. She put her phone in it. She grabbed Press's phone and put that inside too. She stuffed her AirPods and her watch into the bag and then motioned to me to shove my phone in as well. Swanson nodded to Press, who pulled the car over on the side of a 2-lane dirt road outside of town. Without a word, Press got out of the car. Swanson pulled Jimmy out. We stood on the side of the road now, all four of us. It was cold. Winds gathered off the lake and whipped through the town and bit into us on this quiet, abandoned road. Press put a gentle hand on Jimmy's shoulder. I believe you, she said. I'm sorry, you're not under arrest, but you're still going to jail, okay? Jimmy was quiet for a long minute. The surprised, stunned look disappeared from his face. He said, because he was listening? Press nodded. You wanted to make it look like you had your guy and that Bill was in the clear. Press nodded. And you couldn't just say that because he might be listening. Press nodded. I had to hand it to Jimmy. He caught on to this long before I did. Without a word, Swanson had grabbed onto Press's plan back in the house and joined in immediately, following her lead with the handcuffs. Jimmy understood well on the side of the road with a few gentle words, and here I was, the last person to really latch onto the idea. So much for common sense. Just to be clear that everyone was on the same page, and by that I mean me, the slowest member of the group, clearly, Press said, we have to make this look like a real arrest, a real investigation, okay? It's going to be painful for a little bit, but with your help, we can nail this little shit once and for all and put a stop to it. My dads are going to be so sad. Press said, you can't tell them a thing. You have to be careful where you speak and who you're speaking to. If what you're telling me is true, he's hacked into everyone's phones and could be listening to anyone all the time. Is that right? Jimmy nodded. Then a light bulb went off and his face brightened. I know someone else who can help. Press and Swanson listened intently, wondering how wide to make this makeshift circle. Jimmy said, Emily Willis. She was best friends with Dorian Block. She'd do anything to nail whoever killed her best friend. We didn't have the clown creeper. He was still out there, but this case suddenly felt just as important. Some little computer nerd was out there making people commit the worst types of crimes all over town, and we had a way to finally catch him. And if we were really lucky, his perverted spy camera crimes might also have captured the clown creeper in action. This is a good plan, I said, nodding to myself. And they all spun in my direction, Press, Swanson, and Jimmy, and I could tell, immediately, the way they looked at me with that sort of slow, pat-on-the-head type of way, they were all thinking the same thing, or something close to it at least. Does your dog have common sense? Next time on Crime Adjacent. Like clockwork, the call came very early the next morning, Saturday, September 2024. This is a little before 6 a.m. There was another break-in, another foot rub, another woman left scrambling for her life. If it wasn't Jimmy Ball, this latest break-in occurred while Jimmy spent the night in jail and only seemed to confirm the story that he had nothing to do with it. Then Sheriff Press was back at square one all over again. Was it Meeks? He still could not be located. Was it someone else? Press had managed to make headway on the crime spree that had taken over the town that year, but she was no closer to catching the clown creeper. She couldn't possibly know it at the time, but the clown creeper would strike twice that day. Once at the lake, and then again in downtown Petoskey, where the second murder in this case happened. If you wouldn't mind, a like and a 5-star review keeps this show going. Thanks for being here. Until next week, this is Chase Patrick from San Francisco with the reminder, it's not crime, it's crime adjacent.